Right now at 5, the city of Miami will soon receive a $2 million grant for use in improving its roadways and some other projects. Plus, we got a nice, decent start to the day yet again today, but we have more high temperatures on the way. We're going to break it all down coming up. And KOAM's own Iana Hatula takes us to Welch, Oklahoma to show us how one family farm is trying to beat the heat and drought sweltering their pumpkin patch.
The 4 states' most watched news starts now.
Good morning. Welcome to the KOAM Morning News. It is officially 5 a.m. I'm Chris Warner. Thank you so much for joining us this morning. We've got a lot of news coming your way, including some breaking news. We're going to get to all of that in a few moments. But first, let's take a look at our forecast, which unfortunately is not any good news. Right now, though, it's not bad. 7th and range line is clear. We're looking pretty good. Starting the day warmer than where we were, but not bad. 66 degrees this morning in Joplin. 62 Yates Center and Iola, 64 Fort Scott, Nevada, 65 Lamar, and 66 in Carthage as we start this Thursday. Allergies still a major issue. In fact, the number for today revised upward, 9.3 out of 12, and we're looking at an 8.6 out of 12. That puts it in the moderately high categories. So if you have any outdoor activities planned, while the weather will be nice for it, the allergy count will not be. So make sure you take some allergy medicine with you. Kids getting on the bus this morning. We have partly cloudy skies, 60 degrees by 7 a.m. Clouds increase throughout the day. Be mostly cloudy by the time they get off the bus, 85. The one nice thing is the clouds will help keep our temperatures in check. And we won't be too terribly hot, heading for an afternoon high of 89 under mostly cloudy skies throughout the day. And this evening, the clouds will eventually clear late tonight, giving us an overnight low of 62 degrees. And a look at the weekend forecast, 94 Saturday, 98 on Sunday. We really start to heat up as we see overnight lows also creep into the lower 70s. We're going to take a look at your 7-day forecast and if there's any hope for rain on the horizon here in just a few minutes. And we start this morning with breaking news out of Caney, Kansas, as the city announces on its website a declaration of water emergency. This declaration means mandatory water conservation for all citizens and businesses in Caney. It means no water used for outdoor watering, either public or private, commercial, agricultural, or industrial purposes, except water actually necessary to maintain the health and personal hygiene of bona fide employees of such businesses or interests while such employees are engaged in the performance of their duties at their place of employment. Now, this declaration is effective immediately. Residents are warned they can face disconnection of services or even citations if they use unnecessary water. Again, this is a breaking news story. We'll have more on our website at KOAMnewsnow.com as it develops. City of Miami, Oklahoma gets ready to receive a more than $2 million grant to help with road improvements and other projects. After the city completed more than $580,000 in street projects last fiscal year, the city has budgeted a little more than $3.2 million for streets this fiscal year. The American Rescue Plan gives the city more than $2 million, much of which would be used for road projects. City Council has also approved using more than $371,000 from sales tax revenue for roads. Street Department manager says the city has begun working on determining what roads to fix first.
Right now we have approximately 30 that we have had a GIS, a Geographical Information System test run on. So to determine which ones that were needed to be completely repaired or the ones that we could actually save with crack sealing or slurry sealing or something like that.
Barger says there is a 5-year plan for completion of all repairs. Well, the heat has affected corn, soybeans, and many other crops this summer here in the 4 states, and pumpkin patches are no exception. Annabelle's Fun Farm in Welch, Oklahoma is trying to grow as many pumpkins as they can for their pumpkin patch month of October. Usually, the farm produces up to 40,000 pumpkins, but this year it's far less. The owner says it looks like they'll have to rely on farmers in Nebraska to bring them some more pumpkins for people to collect.
Especially now that the fuel has gone up, the shipping is more expensive. So, yeah, we'll get several semi-loads in, and shipping we'll just have to absorb that because we can't really go up on our prices of pumpkins. So, same prices last year. We'll just keep it the same.
Annabelle's Fun Farm will open on October 1st. Coming up later in the show, our own Iana Hatula takes us down to Annabelle's Fun Farm for a closer look at how they're dealing with the heat and drought in Oklahoma. Parents of McDonald County high schoolers now have a high-tech healthcare provider when their kids aren't feeling well. A telemedicine unit with medical-grade equipment will allow students to be seen from the school nurse's office. A provider from Neosho's hospital will be able to do a complete assessment of the student. Parents can also join in on the visit from their phones by opening a link that's sent to them.
One of Freeman's goals is to be certain that we are taking care of our communities, and access to care is a true barrier for many parents, many students.
Freeman Neosho hopes to have telemedicine units in all McDonald County campuses by the end of the year. Now, for that 7-day forecast, as you can see, it gets really hot. We'll start pushing upper 90s as we get into the second half of the weekend, the start of next week. You can also see we remain hot and dry. And look at some of those overnight lows only dropping back to the mid-70s. Now, on the 10-day forecast, we do see Thursday and Friday is what we've been talking about. We're still looking at a slight chance of some showers, maybe some thunderstorms. Right now, some of the computer models show the rain kind of sticking to our north. But again, as we close in on next Thursday and Friday, we'll be able to fine-tune the forecast data and hopefully get us some additional rainfall here in the 4 states, because as we know, we desperately need it. What we've got is a cold front, though, that's coming through, and that's why we're watching this closely, because one thing it definitely does is it drops temperatures by 10 to 15 degrees after it pushes through. So one way or another, relief is on the way, but hopefully it'll bring a little rain with it. And that's a look at this morning's top stories and weather here on the KOAM Morning News. Still ahead, the Lions return home with pride following a weekend victory against Northeastern State. But MSSU is already preparing for their next match versus Central Oklahoma on Saturday. We'll take a closer look in sports. Plus, at least a dozen more states get ready to follow California's historic decision to ban gasoline-fueled cars by 2035. And we want to know if you'd ever own an electric car. And a new study suggests a daily multivitamin may slow the process of cognitive aging in older adults. I've got the details. You're watching the KOAM Morning News. It's more real news in the morning. We'll be right back. Well, the Missouri Southern Lions picked up their first win of the season last weekend, beating Northeastern State 30-13. With that win, Southern is now 1-1 this fall. Lions return home this weekend, hosting Central Oklahoma on Saturday night. The Broncos are also 1-1 through their first 2. Missouri Southern had some success last week on the ground rushing for 191 yards. Nathan Glades had 133 of those yards with 2 scores. The Lions will try to keep that rushing attack rolling against UCO, but they also know that's what the Broncos will be trying to stop.
We did have success running the ball in the fourth quarter, but sometimes when you have that success, they're going to come out and maybe say, hey, they're not going to run the ball, and they're going to load the box. And so in that situation, Dawson's got to be able to take advantage of that, of a heavy box, and throw the ball a little bit more. We always want to go out and run the football. That is my goal as a program, is that we can establish the run. But like I said, if we see heavy boxes and they're loading us up, then we've got the receivers this year that can take advantage of one-on-one coverage.
At the high school level, for the second straight week, the Pittsburgh Purple Dragons will play an old SEK rivalry game. Purple Dragons host former league rival Lebec County on Friday night. Both of these teams have struggled a little bit to start the season. Lebec County is 0-2. Pittsburgh also 0-2 after falling on the road to Chanute last week. For the Purple Dragons, going 0-2 in their first 2 games isn't ideal, but they've been good learning experiences for a pretty young team.
We knew the first 2 games were going to be a little bit rough. They were going to be tougher games. We tried keeping our heads on straight, and I think that was our biggest thing in those 2 games, was keeping our heads on straight and just worrying about the next game. After that first loss, we worried about the next one.
The energy they have, we're making mistakes, but we're going 100 miles an hour doing it, and you want that. Not that you want mistakes, but at least they're playing hard. And everything, all the mistakes that we make are very, very correctable.
Chiefs quarterback Patrick Mahomes is this week's AFC Offensive Player of the Week. In Sunday's game against Arizona, he completed 30 of 39 passes for 360 yards and 5 touchdowns. It's his 6th career game with at least 5 passing touchdowns. It's also the 8th time he's earned Player of the Week honors, tying him with the late Derek Thomas for the most in franchise history. St. Louis Cardinals have just 20 games left in the regular season. All eyes from here on out will be on Albert Pujols and his quest to become the 4th player ever to hit 700 career home runs. Pujols has 697 career homers coming into the game last night. He and the Cards play Game 2 of their series against the Brewers. Pujols, no home runs, but he does go 1 for 3 with an RBI double. Cardinals win 4-1. Over to the American League, Kansas City Royals on the field for Game 2 of their series with the Twins. The Royals dropped Game 1 Tuesday night 6-3. Last night, Kansas City didn't score, dropping another one for nothing. Series finale is tonight at 6:40. Still to come, the Russian and Chinese navies conduct joint patrols in the Pacific ahead of Vladimir Putin's meeting with Xi Jinping in Uzbekistan today. And we're going to take a look at that forecast one more time when the KOAM Morning News returns. Okay, I got some flavored water that's got some caffeine in it or something like that. I told Gabe that it's got like 5,000 milligrams. Either way, I am just on fire today. So I hope you are as pumped up as I am for Thursday, because you know what that means? It means tomorrow's Friday. Let's talk about what we can expect. Unfortunately, with some temperatures we're going to see, it's going to be like we're on fire. We got clouds today. Despite that, no rain is expected. And we've got the hot, dry conditions continuing into next week. And we're still watching those storm chances next week as well. Let's take a look at Skywatch Storm Tracker. You can see some of the cloud cover where this will continue to increase throughout the day. It doesn't bring any rain, but it's associated with rain that's out to our west. Just unfortunately, it's not bringing any here. So hopefully that will change in the next few days. For now, though, we're looking pretty good. And 66 in Joplin, under mostly clear skies. Temperatures across the area also looking good. 62 in Yates Center, 62 Iola, 64 Fort Scott as we start the day. Allergies are another major issue that we are dealing with. And you can see the number for today has been revised up just a bit to 9.3 out of 12, and tomorrow 8.6 out of 12. So if you're going to do anything outdoors while the weather's good for it, allergy situation, not so much. Kids getting on the bus this morning, it's going to be 60 degrees, partly cloudy skies, and when they get home, 85 under mostly cloudy skies. And as we go through the rest of today, mostly cloudy skies are exactly what we are expecting, unfortunately, and a high of 89. So the one nice thing is that it does keep our temperatures in check. Overnight tonight, clouds will eventually clear out, leaving us with a low of 62 degrees. And for the weekend, we really start to heat up. 94 Saturday, 98 Sunday. Partly cloudy skies. Nights start to get into the 70s. So let's look at the 7-day forecast real quick while we've got a second here. Temperatures start to ramp up. We go from lower 90s to upper 90s as we head through the weekend. We stay hot, we stay dry. Overnight lows in the mid-70s. And then we head into next week. One thing we know is there's a cold front coming through Thursday into Friday. So we've got a 10 to 15 degree temperature drop. What is uncertain is how much moisture it'll have to play with. So we are hopeful for some rain Thursday into Friday because we absolutely need it. And with this hot, dry stretch coming up, it's not going to help improve drought conditions whatsoever. California made history last month when regulators agreed to ban the sale of new gasoline-fueled cars by 2035. And because the state is the largest auto market in the country, the measure could lead to a major shift across the country. Jen Sullivan tells us why more than a dozen states could be on the verge of adopting the same unprecedented electric car mandate.
As California goes, so does the rest of the country. 1 month after the Golden State became the first to ban the future sale of gas cars, more than a dozen states could soon be following suit.
If that group of states that tends to follow California's lead were to do so with this as well, it would be roughly 30% of the population in the U.S. would now be living somewhere where there would be this requirement.
Currently, there are 17 states that already follow California's car emission standards, at least in part. And experts say once the mandate is approved by the EPA, it's likely they'll apply their rule, which requires that by 2035, all new vehicles sold in the state must be electric, hydrogen-powered, or at least plug-in hybrid.
We will move forward to green and decarbonize our vehicle fleet.
Experts say under the Federal Clean Air Act, states must follow the federal government's vehicle emission standards or choose to adopt California's stricter requirements. And a growing number of states appear to be leaning toward the second option, including Washington, Massachusetts, New York, Oregon, and Vermont. Critics of the measure argue it raises big concerns around issues like charging infrastructure, mineral availability, and supply chain issues, and vehicle pricing. The recently passed Inflation Reduction Act aims to help lower prices by giving buyers of passenger vehicles assembled in North America a $7,500 federal EV tax incentive.
And if you install an electric vehicle charging station in your home, you can also get a tax credit.
That brings us to our question to you today. Would you ever own an electric car? Yes or no? You can vote on our website, KOAMnewsnow.com/vote. Do so through the app and take part in the discussion on our Facebook page. We're back with Healthwatch right after this.
Topping Healthwatch this morning, more than 16 million people are living with cognitive impairment in the U.S., and that's according to the Centers for Disease Control and Prevention. But a new study suggests a daily multivitamin may slow the process of cognitive aging in older adults. Mandy Gaither has a look at the research and what it could mean.
They're safe, affordable, and may already be in your medicine cabinet. A new study suggests taking a multivitamin every day may slow cognitive decline in seniors 65 and older.
When you think about the millions of Americans, 6.5 million Americans who have Alzheimer's disease, this could be a really important public health intervention.
Over a 3-year period, older adults were given either a multivitamin or cocoa extract as a placebo. Those involved in the study had their cognition tested each year. Researchers found after 3 years, those taking the multivitamin appeared to have slowed cognitive aging by about 60% compared with the placebo.
To date, there's really been no real review that shows sufficient evidence to recommend a nutrient supplement to protect cognitive health.
It's still unclear what's driving the link between a multivitamin and cognitive function, but researchers believe it may be connected to the way supplements can benefit people who might be lacking in micronutrients, something that most people can get from a well-balanced meal.
It is possible that in some older Americans, particularly those with cardiovascular disease, where they actually saw an enhanced benefit in this study, there may be micronutrient deficiencies, so people aren't getting enough in their diet, and that by giving them back, we may be able to promote cognitive function.
While health experts say the results are promising, larger and more diverse studies are now needed.
The researchers say they were shocked at the results of the study, and they were expecting the cocoa extract to have some cognitive benefits based on prior reports of it helping the cardiovascular system, but they say it wasn't the cocoa, instead the multivitamin that helped cognition. That's a look at some of today's top health stories. You're watching the KOAM Morning News.
All right, let's take a look at that forecast for you today. 7th and range line looking pretty good right now. We've got clear skies, partly cloudy skies, and the cloud cover is going to actually increase as we go through the day. 66 in Joplin right now with a light south-southeast breeze. Temperatures good across the area. 57 Sedan, 61 Chanute, 63 Pittsburgh, 67 in Carthage, and 55 down in Anderson. So a wide spattering of temperatures. Another thing we have a wide spattering of is pollen across the area. In fact, numbers for today have been revised upward, unfortunately, to a 9.3 out of 12, moderately high, 8.6 out of 12 tomorrow, still moderately high. Kids getting on the bus this morning, so we'll start to see clouds increase, partly cloudy skies, 7 a.m., 60 degrees. Then as the kids get home today, we'll have mostly cloudy skies, 85. Unfortunately, despite the mostly cloudy skies, no rain falling from these clouds. But they do keep temperatures in check, 89. That seems high, but it's going to get hotter later. 89 today. Clouds clear out late tonight, 62 for an overnight low, and this is what I'm talking about with the heat. 94 Saturday, 98 Sunday as we start to really tick up in temperatures. We'll start to see overnight lows in the lower to mid 70s by next week. We've got more of the KOAM Morning News coming your way.
Coming up, the city of Miami will soon receive a $2 million grant for use in improving its roadways and other projects.
We have nice skies this morning and good temperatures to start the day, but it's really going to start to heat up. We'll talk about that coming up.
And KOAM's own Yana Hatula takes us to Welch, Oklahoma to show us how one family farm is trying to beat the heat and drought. And they're sweltering their pumpkin patch.
The 4 states' most watched news starts now.
Good morning and welcome to the KOAM Morning News. It's now 5:29. I'm Tanya Buck.
I'm Chris Warner. I can't remember, was it passion fruit or dragon fruit?
You said dragon, I think.
I mean, I know I said dragon, but I can't remember what it was. So I have flavored water, right? Mm-hmm. usually I get the little sweet tea packets. They have about 15 milligrams of caffeine in it, and I'm out. So I was looking at what Amber had at home, and I found one package, because most of them were for the kids. We're talking like Kool-Aid, Hawaiian Punch, whatever. And there was one that was a black color, stood out, because all the others were different. And I'm like, okay, what's this? And it said dragon fruit or whatever. And I'm pretty confident it said 230 milligrams of caffeine in it.
Which explains why he's talking so
Yeah.
fast.
So I put it in the water, and it actually tastes really good, and I definitely recommend it. But the only problem is I'm either going to crash between now and the 7 a.m. hour, or between now and noon. And I'm not really sure how it's going to happen or when. But for right now, really energized today. Yesterday, though, too, you know, you remember, we were just kind of dragging yesterday. So now that's why we've got dragon fruit, so that we're not dragging.
Dragon fruit will keep you from dragging.
Yes, it will. It'll do something for you. And it unfortunately doesn't do anything for our temperatures, though, because take a look. Skywatch, this is not the Skywatch Storm Tracker. This is our camera at 7th and Range Line, and it is looking pretty good. Temperatures in Joplin right now, 66 degrees. Looks all right. Temperatures across the area, not bad either. 68 Center, 61 Fredonia, 62 in Parsons, 67 in Carthage as we start this day. Allergies, though, a big problem again today. We were hoping for slightly lower numbers, but unfortunately they got revised up. So we're looking at a 9.3 out of 12, an 8.6 out of 12 tomorrow, moderately high. So do be prepared for that. Partly cloudy skies, 60 degrees when the kids get on the bus. The clouds increase, mostly cloudy, 85 by 3 o'clock. And as we go through the rest of today, the clouds keep our temperatures in check, though. 89 degrees for an afternoon high. And I say that's in check because I'm going to tell you about the weekend forecast and the 7-day. 89 is going to feel pleasant compared to what we have coming up. Our overnight low tonight, 62, and the clouds will eventually clear out. We'll take another look at your forecast here in a few minutes.
I really question why the allergy tracker goes to a 12 instead of just to a 10.
I am not in charge of that, unfortunately.
Is it because like the numbers here in the 4 states are just so high they didn't want to like hit 10 too quickly?
The data,
so they bumped it up to a 12?
The data is generic for wherever you're getting the allergy forecast from. They all go to 12, but I really don't know why it is a 12. I didn't really think about that. There's some science behind it, I'm sure, but it does go to a 12.
There's 12 months in a year, but
now you've got me kind of curious. That's something I'll have to Google. Because, I mean, the forecast is generic anywhere. So if we were in California and wanted to look it up, it would still be a blank out of 12.
See, this is my secret plan to keep him from crashing. I give him little missions throughout the morning.
Yeah, I'm going to go read about this, and then I'll take a look at the 7-day forecast for you.
I am curious, though. Why 12? That's interesting.
You brought up an excellent point. We're going to find out.
All right. Thanks, Chris. The city of Miami, Oklahoma will receive a more than $2 million grant for road improvements and other projects after the city completed more than $580,000 in street projects in the last fiscal year. The city budgeted a little more than $3.2 million for streets this fiscal year. The American Rescue Plan gives the city more than $2 million, much of which will be used for road projects. The City Council has also approved using more than $371,000 from sales tax revenue for roads. The street department manager says the city's priority is the streets.
This extra money in turn means a lot more work being done around the city, a lot of projects going on. I know it's a little bit of an inconvenience for some people to get around to their homes or businesses or stores. We're doing our very best so that we can continue to let traffic move in the direction it needs to move, but there are some times that we have to completely block the road off to do the actual repairs.
Barger says there is a 5-year plan for completion of all repairs. Well, heat and drought have taken a toll on corn, soybeans, and many other crops this summer here in the 4 states. And our own Iana Hatula met with a pumpkin patch owner in Welch, Oklahoma, to discuss their pumpkin situation for this fall.
Usually, Annabelle's Fun Farm can produce up to 40,000 pumpkins each year. This year, the situation is different as problems started already in the beginning with not enough water when planting the plants. The owner says this is probably the worst year of the 12 years they have operated.
they're putting a taproot in to find a water source. Unfortunately, this year it's so deep that the plants just struggle.
He also says pumpkin plants prefer cooler nights.
Exceptional heat, and it doesn't cool off in the nighttime. It stunts the plants as well.
Heat and drought will not stop Annabelle's Fun Farm this year, as they will get more pumpkins from Nebraska farmers if needed. However, relying on other farmers will be costly for the farm.
Especially now that the fuel has gone up, the shipping is more expensive. So yeah, we'll get several semi-loads in, and shipping we'll just have to absorb that because we can't really go up on our prices of pumpkins. So same prices last year, we'll just keep it the same.
The farm makes sure they also have enough pumpkins for the annual tradition for the end of the season.
We do a all-you-can-carry, like kind of a Halloween bash thing, so people love coming out because all they can carry for the price of it.
The staff wants to remind people they are still open with lots of pumpkins, even though the hot weather has been making things harder. Their corn is not as tall as normal due to the heat, but the corn maze will be open.
Maybe later in the season when they're coming up, but it's still able to walk through the patch and all the corn maze as well.
In Welch, Janna Hautala, KOAM News.
Annabelle's Fun Farm will open on October 1st and will remain open through the end of the month. Love going to pumpkin patches. The sandwich generation refers to people who care for people 65 years or older while also caring for a child. And recently this group has been feeling a lot of pressure from things like the pandemic, economic uncertainty, and societal shifts. To help these caregivers, a representative from the Home Instead organization partnered with Freeman to host a support group meeting.
And so Home Instead, we provide care professionals that can come into the home and take those day-to-day tasks and responsibilities away from that family caregiver that's in that sandwich generation.
According to Pew Research, more than 1 in 10 U.S. parents with children under the age of 18 are also caring for an aging adult. Mercy Joplin partners with One Joplin with the goal of building a stronger Joplin. The hospital presented a check of $25,000 to One Joplin to become the organization's second corporate partner. The One Joplin executive director says the money will be used for certain literacy projects.
No, I think it's great. I think this sponsorship helps to continue their work and to fund events or activities that the teams that are involved in One Joplin get to do or get to put on for the community.
The director says this is the first year that Mercy has partnered with One Joplin. Well, this morning we're discussing electric cars. California made history last month when it moved to ban the sale of gasoline-fueled cars by 2035. Because the state is the largest auto market in the country, the measure could in fact move other states across the country in a similar direction. Already more than a dozen other states are set to follow California's example. For years, critics have said electric cars are too expensive, but like all things, the cost of the technology is becoming cheaper to manufacture and more readily available. Which leads us to our question we've been asking this morning. Would you ever own an electric car? Simply yes or no. We want to hear from you. Go to our website at koamnewsnow.com/vote, or you can go to our Facebook page and join the discussion. All right, that's a look at our top news stories. Coming up this half hour in the KOAM Morning News, the world turns out to say farewell to Queen Elizabeth II.
Mourners wait for days for one historic moment with Queen Elizabeth. I'm Tina Krause in London, where the lines keep growing as the late monarch lies in state.
Plus, a sneak preview of the David Bowie documentary Moonage Daydream, which highlights the performer's music and personas. We'll have the latest. You're watching the KOAM Morning News. More real news in the morning. We'll be right back. Topping World Watch this morning, the Russian and Chinese navies are conducting joint patrols in the Pacific Ocean today, ahead of the expected face-to-face meeting between Russian and Chinese presidents at the regional summit in southeastern Uzbekistan. Russian officials say the goals of the maneuvers include strengthening naval cooperation between Russia and China, maintaining peace and stability in the region, and protecting maritime economic activities between both countries. Well, people are lining up around the clock to get a chance to say farewell to Britain's longest reigning monarch, Queen Elizabeth II, before her funeral next week. Tina Krause has the latest.
The line of mourners awaiting a final chance to pay their respects before Queen Elizabeth's funeral Monday stretches between 2 to 3 miles. Some have been waiting for days, others for hours to see the Queen's coffin as she lies in state at Westminster Hall.
For 70 years, the least we can do is queue up for a few hours to pay our respects.
We queued for 6-7 hours and then it was over so quickly, but inside it was amazing.
Yesterday, a procession on a horse-drawn gun carriage brought the Queen's coffin from Buckingham Palace through London streets as cannons sounded and crowds took it all in.
And just seeing the coffin pass, it was just special and it meant a lot to me.
As the procession made its way across the city, King Charles III, his siblings and sons Princes William and Harry marched behind. Once inside, the solemn mood took an unexpected turn when a guard fainted in front of the Queen's coffin. Up to 1 million people are expected to see the Queen lying in state before her funeral is held here at Westminster Abbey on Monday.
The Queen, she was very hardworking and she had integrity and she was dignified and personally, she's a role model.
The late monarch's coffin is topped with the imperial state crown, encrusted with some 2,800 diamonds. The Queen wore it for her coronation in 1953. Also adorning the coffin is pine from the Queen's Balmoral estate in Scotland, where Elizabeth died at the age of 96. Tina Kraus, CBS News, London.
The White House says President Biden spoke with King Charles yesterday to offer his condolences, saying her, quote, dignity and constancy deepened the enduring friendship and special relationship between the United States and the United Kingdom. Let's look at some of your biggest headlines from around the world. Here's Chris with another look at your forecast.
As kids get on the bus today, we'll have partly cloudy skies, about 60 degrees by 7 a.m. Clouds increase throughout the day, mostly cloudy by 3 and 85. Going through today, 89 is going to seem nice because that's what our afternoon high is under mostly cloudy skies. And tonight, it cools off nicely, 62. Clouds will clear out late tonight, giving us some partly cloudy skies by the time we get into tomorrow. And then a look at the weekend, toasty. It's 94 Saturday, 98 on Sunday under partly cloudy skies. We'll start to see our nights warm into the lower to mid 70s. We'll have a look at your 7-day forecast a little bit later and talk about how hot it's going to get and if there's any relief on the way coming up.
Here's a check of today's top headlines, the news you need to know before you head out the door. Authorities in Oklahoma determine a car crash killed 2 people found dead Tuesday night in Delaware County. Authorities also identify the victims as 22-year-old Shelby Black Fox of Oklahoma City and 46-year-old Ronald Hogsshooter of Frederick, Oklahoma. Officers believe they were ejected from a single vehicle crash, though it's still unclear what led to the crash. And a telemedicine unit with medical-grade equipment will allow McDonald County High School students to be seen from the school nurse's office. The provider from Neosho's hospital will be able to do a complete assessment of the student. Parents can also join in on the visit from their phones by opening a link that is sent to them. Chinese President Xi Jinping arrives in Uzbekistan on Wednesday, where he was welcomed by Uzbek President. According to the Chinese state media, Xi's in the country as part of a state visit that will also see him attending a leaders' meeting of the Shanghai Cooperation Organization. Well, Canada is giving the public a way to honor Queen Elizabeth II. The Department of Canadian Heritage says people can sign an official book of condolences. Physical copies are available in legislative buildings across the country. Messages cannot be longer than 500 words or be offensive or inappropriate. The longest reigning British monarch made 22 official visits to Canada as part of the Commonwealth. That's a check of today's top headlines, the news you need to know before you head out the door.
And we are taking a look at that forecast as you head out the door. One of the big things to deal with is allergies right now. 9.3 out of 12 on the pollen count today and 8.6 out of 12 for tomorrow. Kids getting on the bus this morning, partly cloudy, 60 degrees at 7 a.m. We'll warm up and be mostly cloudy by 3 with a temperature of 85. Heading for an afternoon high of 89 degrees under mostly cloudy skies. Skies will eventually clear out late tonight, giving us an overnight low of 62. And a look at the 7-day forecast shows us where it gets hot. We're looking from lower 90s on Friday to the upper 90s by Sunday and the start of next week. But we are watching a cold front late Thursday that could bring us some shower chances. Definitely bringing us some cooler temperatures. We're just hoping for some additional rainfall to help with the drought. We'll be right back after this.
Ana de Armas goes easy on critics, and Oprah loves Sidney.
Dina Demetrius has those stories and more in your Eye on Entertainment report.
I never thought about what I look like. I didn't know what a mirror was.
Oprah Winfrey chokes up talking about her new documentary on trailblazing actor Sidney Poitier.
This movie, this film is an act of love for me, for him. And I don't know why I'm breaking down, but the opportunity to do this was my offering to him.
Poitier was a longtime friend and advisor to Winfrey, and his example inspired Winfrey's own career. He passed away in January when the film was about 90% shot. Sidney premieres on Apple TV Plus September 23rd. The new Marilyn Monroe biopic Blonde received a 14-minute standing ovation at the Venice Film Festival. But star Ana de Armas says she also understands why critics may not be as excited about the film.
If some people don't understand it or don't like it or don't agree with it, that's also okay. I did. I fell in love with the project, with the character, with the story.
You can judge for yourself when Blonde hits select theaters on Friday.
They aren't actors! Repeat! The clowns are not actors!
And Marlon Wayans stars in the new scare comedy The Curse of Bridge Hollow. He and his daughter team up to save their town when Halloween decorations mischievously come to life.
Hey Sid, you know what the chainsaw was originally called? A bone cutter.
The film drops on Netflix October 14th. That's your Eye on Entertainment. Dina Demetrius, CBS News, Los Angeles.
All right, The Curse of the Bridge Hollow actually looks pretty cool.
That looks like a fun one to watch with your little kids.
Absolutely.
I mean, it looks like, they've got kids in it, so it's probably has a little more family-friendly humor in it, too.
I don't know. They've put kids in some very strange things, like It, for example. Yeah. So that doesn't necessarily mean it's good for kids. They just throw kids in there.
But this one, I don't know.
I don't know about your logic on.
I wonder what this one's rated.
That's an interesting question. We'll have to find out because, I'm sure there are kids in other things that show up, but that doesn't necessarily make it kid friendly.
True.
I'm just saying.
But if it was more like intended just for adults or something, it would be like the father and her teenage daughter teaming up to do something, not young daughter.
That just goes back to It, though. And those kids swear a lot.
Yeah, which is not appropriate. So,
no.
Things were different back then.
That's true. That's true.
All right, we got one more preview for you.
The many lives of David Bowie are featured in a new documentary featuring previously unheard music.
Rick Damigella has the details.
And you find yourself struggling to comprehend a deep mystery.
The documentary Moon Age Daydream brings the deep mystery of David Bowie to the biggest screens.
This was designed from the beginning to be an immersive musical experience designed and built for IMAX theaters and Dolby Atmos cinemas. This was never designed to be a biography or a fact-based film.
Ever since I was 16, I was determined would have the greatest adventure that only one person could ever have.
So I've always been more interested in impressionistic nonfiction. And Bowie provided the perfect canvas for that. The more you listen to David Bowie, the more you learn about yourself.
Director Brett Morgan says making the film was not necessarily challenging.
Those were the 2 best years of my career because I didn't have to do anything other than watch and be open to David Bowie. That was it. 6 days a week, 14 hours a day, I would go into work and I would watch David Bowie. And I would watch most of which was never before seen.
Beyond that footage, the film features previously unheard recordings and new mixes created for the movie, with a 43-track digital soundtrack album releasing alongside the film. In Hollywood, I'm Rick Damigella.
Another excellent movie coming up.
So we're told that The Curse of Bridge Hollow is rated PG-13. So
for your 13 and up.
Or just make sure you have permission from your parents to watch it, or watch it with your kids. There you go.
There you go. All right. We'll have a quick check of your forecast right after this. All right. First that we want to talk about is the allergy situation, because it's not getting any better. In fact, numbers for today got a little worse. We're looking at 9.3 out of 12 on the pollen count for today, 8.6 out of 12 tomorrow. So weather's nice to get outside, but make sure you pack the allergy medicine with you if you do go outdoors. 60 degrees at 7 a.m., partly cloudy skies as kids get on the bus. When that bus turns around, brings them home, we're looking at 85 and mostly cloudy skies as clouds increase throughout the day. They actually will help us. An afternoon high of only 89, and I say only 89 because long-range forecast is going to make 89 feel nice. Clouds will decrease late tonight, and we'll start tomorrow at about 62 degrees with our overnight low. Heading into the weekend is the first taste of where we really start to heat up. 94 Saturday, 98 Sunday. We'll start seeing overnight lows in the the lower to mid 70s rather. The future track shows where rain tries to scrape us over the weekend, but the majority of us are going to remain dry. It's as we head into next week. We really heat up, but then we also watch Thursday as a cold front tries to bring us some shower and thunderstorm chances, which is something we are really hoping for, because look at this 7-day. It's going to be hot. It's going to be dry. We're talking, again, upper 90s as we start the week, overnight lows in the mid 70s, and then we watch that cold front Thursday. It will bring temperatures down. We're just hopeful it'll bring some additional rain chances with it. We're back right after this. Right now at 6, Oklahoma authorities release more information about bodies found near a car in Delaware County. And take a look at this 7-day forecast. It's a little scary to look at. We're going to break down what we're looking at and how hot it's going to get coming up. And the Home Instead organization partners with Freeman Health to form a support group for a generation known as the Sandwich Generation.
The 4 states' most watched news starts now.
Good morning and welcome to the KOAM Morning News. I'm Tanya Buck.
I'm Chris Warner. I just have had so much caffeine that I was telling Tanya she could just go home. I'm really feeling the energy at this point right now. Really.
Guess who's in the building right now? This is going to excite you.
Oh, yeah. Chef Anthony.
Chef Anthony is in the building, and we are ready to cook with him this morning. And do you know what we're making?
You mentioned it yesterday, the apple pie thing.
Apple poutine.
Yeah.
Apple pie poutine.
Yes. That thing. And we were looking it up, and it looks pretty good. And if Chef Anthony's making it, then that means it's going to be pretty great.
Yeah.
Unfortunately, you know what's not so great is these buttons. Here we go. There we are. All right. That and the forecast. So take a look. 7th and Range Line looking pretty decent right now. 64 degrees as we start the day in Joplin. Across the area, we've got 60 in Yates Center, 61 Chanute, 60 Fredonia, 64 Carthage, and 65 in Lamar starting the day. Allergies, we started talking about them yesterday, and boy, we're going to keep talking about them because the allergy count, pollen count's very high. 9.3 out of 12 today, 8.6 out of 12 tomorrow, which, by the way, I did that research, and I could not find any information on why it's a 12. But I did read where that's actually the standard. That's the national standard is a 12, but I don't know why. Kids getting on the bus, 60 degrees, partly cloudy skies at 7 a.m., 85 at 3, and mostly cloudy skies. We'll see those clouds increase today. Despite that, no rain today, unfortunately. 89 for an afternoon high. Going into tonight, we're looking at an overnight low of 62 as the clouds will eventually start to clear out. And I want to show you that 7-day real quick. This is where it gets a little bit yucky. 92 tomorrow. We start rising into the upper 90s as we head into the start of next week with overnight lows pushing the mid 70s. But we're watching a cold front Thursday into Friday. One thing it's doing for sure is it is bringing our temperatures down by about 10 to 15 degrees. We're just not sure about rain. We don't know how much moisture it's going to have to work with, so we're keeping an eye on it as we get closer. There's indications it's going to have some moisture. We're just needing it to have a little bit more so it can bring us some rain and some much-needed relief from the days leading up to it because it's going to be hot.
I wonder if the 12 months has anything to do with, like, meteorologically speaking, you know, the 12 months you have meteorological summer, fall, winter, like they all start at the beginning of the month, and there's 12 months in a year, so why not have a 12?
The 12 is actually a scale on the pollen count itself, and from I guess 12 is its maximum, but I I couldn't really get why the number is 12. It just mentioned that the scale goes to 12 and that it's supposed to be representative of the pollen per cubic meter. So I'm not really the pollen count per cubic meter. So I'm not really entirely sure though why it went to 12. I went through several sites and not one of them explained why it was 12. They simply all agreed it was 12.
Okay, well, the mystery remains. If you guys know the answer, please send Chris a Facebook message.
Yeah, if somebody knows why it is 12, let me know, unless I find it between now and then.
There you go. All right, thanks, Chris. We're going to start the show out here with some breaking news out of Caney, Kansas, as the city announces on its website a declaration of water emergency. Now, this declaration means mandatory water conservation for all citizens and businesses in Caney and means no water used for outdoor watering, either public or private or commercial, agriculture or industrial purposes, except water actually necessary to maintain the health and personal hygiene of bona fide employees of such business or interest while such employees are engaged in the performance of their duties at their place of employment. So don't use water unless it's necessary, folks. The declaration is effective immediately. Residents are warned they can face disconnection of services or even citations if they use unnecessary water. Again, this is a breaking news story, and we'll have more on our website at KOAMnewsnow.com as it develops. Well, authorities in Oklahoma say 2 people were found dead Tuesday night in Delaware County. They were killed in a crash. The bodies were found in a ditch near Highway 28 and 395 Road. Authorities initially stated they found the bodies of a man and a young boy, but now they've identified them as 22-year-old Shelby Black Fox of Oklahoma and 46-year-old Ronald Hogshooter of Frederick, Oklahoma. The 2 were found near a car, and authorities believe they were ejected from that car in a single vehicle crash, although it's unclear what led to the crash. An Ash Grove, Missouri woman was sentenced in federal court for a wire fraud scheme in which she embezzled more than $362,000. Carrie Lee Long also failed to pay nearly $1 million in business payroll taxes and personal income taxes. She pleaded guilty in April to 1 count of wire fraud and 1 count of failure to pay over employment taxes. Long was sentenced to 3 years and 5 months in federal prison without parole. City of Miami, Oklahoma gets a more than $2 million grant to help with road improvements and other projects after the city completed more than $580,000 in street projects in the last fiscal year. The city budgeted a little more than $3.2 million for streets this fiscal year. The American Rescue Plan gives the city more than $2 million, much of which will be used for road projects. City Council has also approved using more than $371,000 from sales tax revenue for roads. Street Department manager says the city has begun working on determining what roads to fix first.
Right now, we have approximately 30 that we have had a GIS, a Geographical Information System test run on. So to determine which ones that were needed to be completely repaired or the ones that we could actually save with crack sealing or slurry sealing or something like that.
Barger says there is a 5-year plan for completion of all repairs. Parents of McDonald County high schoolers no longer have to worry about missing work to take their children to a provider when they're not feeling well. Telemedicine unit with a medical grade equipment will allow students to be seen from the school nurse's office. A provider from Neosho's hospital will be able to do a complete assessment of the student. Parents can also join in on the visit from their phones by opening a link that is sent to them.
One of Freeman's goals is to be certain that we are taking care of our communities, and access to care is a true barrier for many, many parents, many students.
Freeman Neosho hopes to have telemedicine units in all McDonald County campuses by the end of the year. The sandwich generation refers to people who care for people 65 years or older while also caring for a child. And recently, this group has been feeling a lot of pressure from things such as the pandemic, economic uncertainty, and societal shifts. To help these caregivers, a representative from the Home Instead organization partnered with Freeman to host a support group meeting.
And so Home Instead, we provide care professionals that can come into the home and take those day-to-day tasks and responsibilities away from that family caregiver that's in that sandwich generation.
According to Pew Research, more than 1 in 10 U.S. parents with children under the age of 18 are also caring for an aging adult. Well, today, back in 1890, Agatha Christie was born. Mary Calissa Agatha Miller, later known as Agatha Christie, was born September 15th, 1890 in Devon, England. She was raised and educated at Ashfield in her parents' comfortable home. Christie began making up stories as a child. Agatha married Colonel Archibald Christie in 1914, right before World War I, and had one daughter. She began to write on a dare from her sister and produced her first mystery novel, The Mysterious Affair at Styles, featuring Belgian detective Hercule Poirot, who would appear in 25 more novels during the next quarter century. This novel would bring her modest success, and it was The Murder of Roger Ackroyd that became a bestseller and caused her to enjoy phenomenal success for the rest of her life. 1926, after the death of her mother and a divorce from her first husband, she went missing for 11 days, but turned up at a health spa. She was knighted in 1971 and then later died in 1976. I've read many Agatha Christie novel. Big fan here. That's a look at this morning's top stories and weather in our first 7 minutes. Coming up on the KOAM Morning News. If it's Thursday, you know what that means. It's time to welcome our very own Chef Anthony into Studio K in the Chef Anthony Test Kitchen. There he is.
We're looking at a pretty decent day today before we head to a big warm-up. We're going to break it all down in the Skywatch Weather Center.
And uninsured sexual assault victims can pay up to $45,000 due to costly ER visits. Explain. You're watching the KOAM Morning News. More real news in the morning. We'll be right back. Welcome back to the Chef Anthony Test Kitchen. Of course, we have Chef Anthony in studio from Pittsburgh High School Culinary Arts. And we're making something super exciting today. I'm not exactly sure what it is, but it implies it has a Canadian name.
Yes,
Poutine.
Apple pie poutine. Well, poutine is like cheese fries, gravy fries, but we upscale it. So if you were doing a gravy fry, you would use the stock from whatever proteins that you're making for dinner that night to make an appetizer. So if it was pork, you'd make it into a velouté cream sauce. And you'd add like bacon lardons and cheese curds and scallions and just elevate it up from just traditional fries with gravy smothered. So this time we're actually going to make it with apple pie. We're going to take an apple pie and we're going to convert it into poutine just because it's a nice play on it.
There's no actual gravy in it.
No, the gravy is going to be like with your apple pie filling.
Okay, good.
So
I was a little bit worried.
oh, just a little bit, but if I don't worry a little bit, then you start to think I'm crazy.
And speaking of people might think you're crazy or whatnot, I love the attire, but you want to explain?
It's Spirit Week at PHS, and today is Country Club and Country, or versus Country.
Country Club versus Country.
Yes, so I have my hat and my flannel and my boots and my jeans and just rocking the whole comfort fit today.
Okay, I like it.
So we're going to start with, this is my grandmother's no-fail pie crust.
Okay.
And we used to love this because the recipe always said that if you can't make it, Grandma will come to you and make a pie. So we're going to start with this recipe because it's super easy. We're going to start with 1 cup of flour, half of a cup of shortening, and yes, use shortening versus butter. It's a must for this recipe.
So this shortening is actually yellow. Is it a
This is butter Crisco.
Butter Crisco, okay.
I like the little bit of butteriness that it gives. It's not a whole lot, but it's a little bit. Now we're going to start to cut in our shortening. And you can pick up these nice little paddles at with our friends over at Allied Restaurant Supply.
Okay.
I get 20 of them for like $8.
All right.
And they do wear out, but when you can buy them like that, you don't have to worry about them wearing out.
If you don't have one of those, I know a lot of people cut their
They
crust
do make
with a fork or something.
Like you can do it with a fork. You can do it with an old pastry blender, which is the little handheld piece that curves and has the little blades at the bottom. But I find this just works easier. So we're going to start cutting this all together a little bit. Get it all nice and cut down into littler pieces, smaller pieces, not littler. English department's going to get on my case for my grammar. And we're going to add a little bit of water at a time, just a little bit.
Too much, then it'll just get clumpy, or?
It will get really tough.
Okay.
So we just add it a little bit at a time, start to bring it together. And as you can see, it's starting to come together with that little bit of water.
So I'm really curious about the Spirit Week. What else have you had going on this week? Of course, it is homecoming for Pittsburgh High School on Friday night.
And well, we had Adam Sandler Day.
Oh.
We had Class Colors Day, which is for teachers. It was purple as always. I love that one. Adam Sandler Day, so I channeled my inner Billy Madison. And we had Camo Day yesterday, so I came in kitchen camouflage. Nobody got it. I had my really loud chef's pants and my favorite shoes, and was trying to they all asked me, well, you're not in camouflage. I said, yes, I am, because if I walk into a kitchen, you won't find me. And then tomorrow, I'm not exactly sure what tomorrow is. I think it's Neon Day.
Really?
Yeah. And there's all sorts of stuff to go along with it. The teachers are involved in a competitive dodgeball tournament, which is going to be kind of cool.
Ooh, when is this?
It's Friday at our pep rally.
Friday at the prep rally. That sounds like fun.
Oh, I'm excited. So here we have our dough. We're starting to pull it out. It comes together real easy. There's no real hard work into this dough recipe. And if you notice, I have a lot of water, but I don't necessarily need a lot of water.
It's sticky enough that it's going to pick up everything.
Exactly.
Here. Do you need this anymore?
No, I don't think I will.
Get out of your way for you. Give you a little more space.
Just add it all together. And this crust is so fabulous. This was the one that I use when I go to competitions because it comes together perfect every time I make it. A little bit of flour on my work surface. Now, remember when they tell you to flour your work surface, it's not just to keep it from sticking, but your dough, if it needs a little extra flour,
that's where it gets it.
That's where it pulls it up from.
So you definitely don't want to start over floured with your dough because while you're prepping it, you're going to be adding more.
Exactly. So we're going to take this one. It's pretty much done. You can see how beautiful and soft and moldable it is. Makes it easy for a rollout. Flatten it out into a disc. Wrap it in plastic. Let it rest for at least half an hour. That way the gluten inside of it has a chance to relax. Doesn't become tough.
Okay.
And then when we come back, we'll roll this out, cut it into fry-shaped strips, and bake it off. And we're going to make Nana's apple pie filling to go on top.
Oh, that sounds delicious. Well, we will complete our apple pie poutine in the Chef Anthony test kitchen when we come back on KOAM Morning News on Fox 14. Until then, we'll be right back.
We got a decent day lined up for us today before we really see temperatures take off for the next several days. Right now in Joplin, 7th and Range Line looking good, 64 degrees as we start the day, and temperatures across the region still looking pretty decent. 59 Yates Center, 60 in Fredonia, 61 Parsons, 64 Lamar, 66 in Nevada as we head out the door. One of the things that we're also dealing with as you head out the door is a high allergy count. We got a high pollen count rather. 9.3 out of 12 today, 8.6 out of 12 tomorrow. It's the moderately high category. So if you've got outdoor plans, make sure you bring the allergy medicine along with you. You're probably going to need it. Kids getting on the bus this morning, 60 degrees, partly cloudy skies at 7 a.m. And then when the bus brings them home, increasing clouds. So mostly cloudy by 3 and 85 with a south breeze. As we go through today, 89 is the expected high, 80 at noon, 84 at 5, 75 at 8. So you can see mostly cloudy skies all day long. And 89 is going to feel nice compared to what the 7-day forecast has to show us. We'll drop back gradually through the 60s to an overnight low of 62. Clouds start clearing out very late tonight, early tomorrow morning. Heading into the weekend, 94 Saturday, 98 on Sunday as we really start to heat up. We're going to see overnight lows back into the lower to mid 70s as we get into next week. The future track does show where we might have a stray shower or two come Saturday evening, but for the most part, we're going to remain dry. We're going to stay hot and dry for the next several days. It's Thursday next week that we're watching, where we've got a cold front that wants to sweep across the area. And look at the temperatures behind it versus the temperatures ahead of it. And we're hoping that this cold front holds on and actually brings us some shower and thunderstorm activity. Because take a look at this. We're talking upper 90s as we get into the weekend and the start of next week. And then we see that cold front possibility Thursday. One thing it does for sure is it drops our temperatures about 10 to 15 degrees. but it's the rain. We just aren't sure yet how much moisture it's going to have to work with, and we're hoping that increases because we are going to need rain by the time we get to Thursday with the current drought situation we've got across the area. The only all-female wrestling league with a global footprint is returning to the ring. WOW, also known as Women of Wrestling, is sure to bring the action and so much more. Dania Bacchus has a look inside.
Randy Rah-Rah, roll through! Nice kick!
Women of Wrestling is back.
And there you see it!
WOW, the all-female sports franchise is once again hitting the ring with new superheroes and some returning rivalries. WOW is owned by Jenny Buss, president of the Los Angeles Lakers, and was created by David McLean, founder of the original Glow, Gorgeous Ladies of Wrestling.
It's amazing. It's been over a 30-year journey of mine to see that women athletes get the platform they deserve in professional wrestling.
I want young women to see these strong role models to inspire them that anything is possible.
Both say the show is more than body slamming action. WOW is a league where representation reigns.
Our roster is amazing. We have different ethnicities, different cultures. Everyone's going to shine and bring something to the tables.
And each episode brings an inside look at the superheroes.
I think the cornerstone of WOW is the stories that we tell, the narratives that are illuminated.
You'll see someone you recognize. You'll relate to somebody on this show.
But of course, there will be drama.
What can we expect this season?
Well, you know, a lot of strong women, strong personalities. People might clash, but I think that just shows, you know, the breadth of personalities that we do have. And so there might be some drama, there might be some intrigue, there might be some friendships, new things that form.
The new season of WOW airs this weekend. Dania Bacchus, CBS News, Los Angeles.
Make sure to check your local listings for when the show airs in your area. Paramount Global, the parent company of CBS, distributes WOW in U.S. and international markets, marking the largest distribution deal to date for any all-female wrestling brand. We're back with Healthwatch after this.
Topping Healthwatch this morning, new research shows sexual assault victims without health insurance end up paying thousands of dollars for ER visits. Even survivors with health insurance have to cover about 14% of the cost out of pocket. The data revealed that 16% of the victims had to pay for the emergency room visits in 2019. The average cost for a visit was around $3,500. For those that were pregnant, it was about $4,500. The Violence Against Women Act of 1994 covers the cost of collecting evidence for sexual assault kits. But researchers say healthcare facilities can still charge for other things like testing, counseling, and emergency contraception. The damage caused by smoking can impact the health of future generations. Researchers in Australia found men who were exposed to secondhand smoke as children were 59% more likely to have children who developed asthma compared to children whose fathers were not exposed. That's a look at some of today's top health stories. You're watching the KOAM Morning News.
All right, kids getting on the bus this morning. Should be partly cloudy, right around 60 degrees with a light south breeze. South breeze continues. Clouds build in, mostly cloudy at 3 and 85. As we go through the rest of the day, we'll stay mostly cloudy. Despite the clouds, no rain's expected, unfortunately. Afternoon high of 89. Heading into tonight, clouds will eventually clear out late tonight, giving us an overnight low of 62 degrees. I want to show you the 7-day forecast because that's where we've got some changes coming. We're 92 tomorrow, mostly clear skies. We stay mostly clear to partly cloudy for the next several days, and temperatures rise into the upper 90s as we head into the second half of the weekend, with overnight lows in the mid-70s in some cases. We're watching a cold front Thursday, which is going to drop our temperatures, but we're not sure yet how much moisture it's going to have to play with. But we are looking at least at some slight chances for some showers and thunderstorms. Of course, we'll keep an eye on that front as we get closer to next Thursday, and hopefully it brings us more much-needed rain. We're back after this.
Coming up, Oklahoma authorities release more information about bodies found near a car in Delaware County.
We got a few clouds out there already this morning, and they'll increase through the day, and so will our temperatures. Latest on the big warm-up coming up.
And the Home Instead organization partners with Freeman Health to form a support group for a generation known as the Sandwich Generation.
The 4 states' most watched news starts now.
Good morning and welcome to the KOAM Morning News. It's now 6:31. I'm Tanya Bach.
I'm Chris Warner, so I think it's starting to wear off.
Is it?
slowing down a little bit.
What about the soda you're drinking?
The soda doesn't have, it's got like a quarter the content, a tenth the caffeine content as whatever that purple dragon fruit stuff was.
So Chris this morning discovered something that was flavored water with extra caffeine.
And it kept me going for the first hour and a half, but it's starting to kind of wear down. I'm not getting tired. I'm just slowing down a little bit, which is probably a good thing, because
you were talking 90
quick.
miles a minute at one point.
I was moving pretty quick, yeah. Something else that's going to move pretty quick, too, is our temperatures, as they are on track to warm up. 7th and range line looking pretty good. You can see some high clouds out there. They'll increase through the day. 64 in Joplin right now. We've got 59 Yates Center, 61 Parsons, 62 Columbus, 59 in Miami, and 60 in Neosho to start the day. We're also dealing with a high pollen count as well. It's up a bit for today. We're looking at a 9.3 out of 12, which is moderately high, and an 8.6 out of 12 for tomorrow. Kids getting on the bus, about 60 degrees by 7 a.m., partly cloudy skies, south breeze continues. More clouds this afternoon, 85 at 3 o'clock. As we go through today, we're looking at mostly cloudy skies with an afternoon high of 89. Clouds clear out late tonight, giving us an overnight low of 62 degrees. Now I want to dive right into that 7-day real quick because I got to show you. 92 tomorrow, mostly clear. We stay mostly clear to partly cloudy, and temperatures soar into the upper 90s by the second half of the weekend, and that's how it remains through midweek next week when we watch a cold front Thursday into Friday. Now, the cold front is going to bring our temperatures down about 10 to 15 degrees. It's a matter of how much moisture it's going to have to work with to determine how much rain we're going to get. And as you can see, we've got no relief for the drought situation. I'm actually concerned it could worsen over the next several days, but we do have some rain. We're just hoping that those rain chances increase and that maybe we can get a little bit more of that much needed rain by next week.
Yeah, well, hopefully we can, that's for sure.
We do need it.
We need it. All right, thanks, Chris. Well, authorities in Oklahoma say 2 people were found dead Tuesday night in Delaware County. They were killed in a crash. The bodies were found in a ditch near Highway 28 and 395 Road. Authorities initially stated they found the bodies of a man and young boy, but now they've identified them as 22-year-old Shelby Blackfox of Oklahoma City and 46-year-old Ronald Hogshooter of Frederick, Oklahoma. The 2 were found near a car, and authorities believe they were ejected from that car in a single vehicle crash, though it's unclear what led to the crash. An Ash Grove, Missouri woman was sentenced in federal court for wire fraud scheme in which she embezzled more than $362,000. Carrie Lee Long also failed to pay nearly $1 million in business payroll taxes and personal income taxes. She pleaded guilty in April to 1 count of wire fraud and 1 count of failure to pay over employment taxes. Long was sentenced to 3 years and 5 months in federal prison without parole. Well, the sandwich generation refers to those who care for people 65 years or older while also caring for a child. Recently, this group has been feeling a lot of pressure from things like the pandemic, economic uncertainty, and societal shifts. To help these caregivers, a representative from the Home Instead organization partnered with Freeman to host a support group meeting.
Professionals. So our care professionals can come in, they can provide light housekeeping, meal preparation, personal care support, so bathing, dressing, toileting, and just respite care for those families.
According to Pew Research, more than 1 in 10 U.S. parents with children under the age of 18 are also caring for an aging adult. Well, breaking this morning, a looming strike by railroad workers seems to be off the table. The White House announced a tentative agreement between the unions and railroad companies, which could avoid disruptions to the U.S. economy. Bradley Blackburn has the latest details.
An engine of the economy appears to be back on track. 115,000 unionized railroad workers had been threatening to strike, but early morning negotiations have produced a tentative agreement. In a statement, President Biden said the workers will get better pay, improved working conditions, and peace of mind around their health care costs, and said it is an important win for our economy. There was a Friday deadline ahead of a strike, with unions demanding changes to things like salary, sick leave, and schedules.
Everybody out that's a railroad employee feels like they've been treated like dirt for the last 4 or 5 years.
A lot was on the line. Railroads estimate a stoppage would have cost the economy $2 billion daily. Shipments of everything from food to fuel to consumer goods would have ground to a halt.
Ultimately, consumer ends up bearing the cost of those disruptions.
So we will continue to see higher prices, shortages, and it could have a huge impact on inflation that's already been high.
But for now, that threat of long-term disruption seems to have passed. Government officials said the agreement came after 20 consecutive hours of negotiations. The union still must vote on the deal, but thanks to a cooling off period, there will not be an immediate shutdown if that vote doesn't succeed. Bradley Blackburn, CBS News, New York.
Roughly 30% of U.S. freight shipments move by rail. Some industries had planned to use trucks to try to alleviate the shipping crunch, but experts say there's not enough capacity on the roads to make up the difference.
And this morning, we're discussing electric cars. California made history last month when it moved to ban the sale of gasoline-fueled cars by 2035. Because the state is the largest auto market in the country, the measure could, in fact, move other states across the country in a similar direction. Already, more than a dozen other states are set to follow California's example. For years, critics have said electric cars are too expensive, but like all things, cost of technology is becoming cheaper to manufacture and make those cars more readily available, which leads us to our question, would you ever own an electric car? So far, 75% of you say you would not, 25% of you say you would. Make sure you vote through our website, the app, and take part in the discussion on our Facebook page.
All right. I know some people with electric cars, and they love them.
I've looked at, hybrid electric, the gas electric hybrids. I kind of like those because I still have the gas backup, so I feel safe, but it also runs off the battery when possible and saves on fuel that way.
I have a lot of charging questions when it comes to that, because I know like Tesla has various charging stations for their vehicles. Anyone can use them, but if you're not Tesla, then you have to pay for them, I understand. So,
see, I don't know enough about that. I do know that, with an all-electric vehicle, there's not a ton of charging stations everywhere yet. So for somebody
obviously you need the right size of source to
charge
your vehicle. But how much does it really use? My electric bill is pretty high as it is. So.
And that's a good question too, is how much power it's going to draw to charge. But think about it. Say we had an all-electric news vehicle fleet. We cover a lot of rural areas here, and there's not a lot of electric chargers around our viewing area.
Very
and
true.
if we were to travel to, say, Yates Center or Chanute and back, would that vehicle hold the charge long enough?
And if you did have to charge while you're there, are you going to have to sit there for an hour while it charges?
So there's some questions and things that will gradually improve, I'm sure. Like they said, technology will improve. I brought this up. First DVD player I bought, $200. It played DVDs and CDs, and that was it. Now you can go get one for $30, $40, and it connects to the internet, gives you Netflix and a whole bunch of other stuff. So the technology will improve. It'll take time, but we'll get there.
I had a cassette player, and the first vehicle I drove had an 8-track in it.
Nice. Very nice.
8-track deck. We do not have any more 8-tracks. I
No,
wish
we do
we
not.
still did. That would have been neat.
We do not.
All right, well, that's a look at our top news stories. Coming up this half hour on the KOAM Morning News, our very own Doug Hetty and Dow Quick step into the studio to talk about the Christian Hetty Foundation's 88 Strong and Passing It On event.
And we are watching a very hot week ahead. We'll break down the temperatures coming up.
Welcome back. You don't often see us on the morning show, Dow Quick, meteorologist Doug Hetty, but we're here to talk about a special fundraiser that's coming up this coming Saturday. And before we get to that, this fundraiser that's going to benefit area families dealing with cancer, we want to talk about the young man who's inspired this fundraiser and the young man this is dedicated to. That is your late son, Christian Hetty, we lost last year.
Yeah, we actually just passed the 1-year anniversary. Christian was diagnosed June of 2020. He was only 11 years old. He had DSRCT cancer, or DSRCT sarcoma. It was stage 4, and the whole reason we're doing this is the battle that we saw that kid go through for 15 months.
A lot of people saw this battle, Doug.
Yeah.
Now, a lot of us were fortunate enough to have known Christian personally, but 100,000 or so knew him indirectly because they followed him on TikTok. We're going to show a little bit of his TikTok video, and then also some photos from Christian, his adventures over the years. People got to know this guy, realized what a precious person he was. Tell me about him, this individual.
Yeah, first off, he was an old soul. We always joke that it was like talking to a 40-year-old man. He was just an old soul, but he told his whole journey on TikTok. And it's, for me and my wife, we have his whole entire cancer journey documented, and we'll have for the rest of our lives. But he was just an extraordinary young, I guess, preteen.
Yeah, he was 12 years old.
Yeah.
He was extraordinary, and what you and your wife and others are doing to honor him is also extraordinary. And that's this fundraiser on Saturday. It's going to be at King Jack Park in Webb City. Just tell me a little bit about what's going on there.
Well, we got a 5K walk and run that's kicking off at 10 o'clock in the morning, but at 11 we have 12 food trucks that are coming. Kickball tournament starts at 11. At noon, cornhole tournament starts. That is still, you can still come out and sign up if you want. And then all afternoon long, we're having bands play. There's going to be food trucks. There's all kinds of other little vendors that are going to be set up. It should be a really good time. The weather's going to cooperate, which is great.
You should know that.
Yes. I kept my fingers crossed on that one.
I know you're sweating it out, I'm sure. Yeah, a lot of people pre-registered for various events, but of course you're welcoming people and encouraging people to come in, registered or not. This is going to be going on throughout the day.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, I'm looking forward to watching some adults pull some hammies running around the kickball field, but it should be a great time. We actually have some pretty good bands set up, and the food trucks are also great as well. We got like 40 Harley bikes coming in.
Wow.
I mean, it's going to be a good day.
This is going to be fun for the entire family.
Absolutely.
And it's going to benefit families. Tell me specifically where the money is going.
So we started the Christian Hetty Foundation specifically to help families like what we went through, because a lot of families don't have time, and time is so valuable. So we want to be able to help local families that have kids with cancer or regional and say, hey, go do something. Go take a trip when you're feeling good. So that was the inspiration for this foundation.
I know it's going to be a success. It's a beautiful tribute to a beautiful young man. It's going to a great cause. And we invite people to come out and enjoy this.
Yeah,
so
should
enjoy
be fun.
King Jack Park on Saturday. We'll be right back.
We take this time to honor today's four-state hero, Rusty Scott. Specialist Scott served in the U.S. Army. He served in Iraq with the 731st Transportation Company, a native of Coffeyville, Kansas. We thank you, today's four-state hero, Rusty Scott.
All right, time for some Thursday birthdays. And as we begin our list today, we start in Carthage with Clinton Sexton turning 5 years old today. And this comes with love from Mom, Dad, and Carlin. Happy 5th birthday, Clinton.
All right, and Miliana Owenby celebrating birthday number 8 this year. Sitting in a bucket of balls there. Happy birthday up in Fort Scott from Mom, Dad, Jace, Leon, Allie, and baby Mila.
And we've got Brett Boone turning 15 years old today. Brett, happy birthday. And this comes with love from Grandma Shirley, Dad, and Auntie April.
Jack Harity celebrating birthday number 15 today. That's really cool. A Jurassic Park Jeep there. Classic. Jake is celebrating birthday number 15 again. Altamont.
And we've got Garrett Hansen over in Pittsburgh turning 18 today. Garrett, a very happy birthday, and this comes with love from Mom, Dad, Granny, and both grandpas.
I like the picture there. That's pretty cool. And Stoney Kyler celebrating birthday number 57 this year in Dunweg with love from your wife and buds.
I get it. I absolutely get it. Carolyn Barnett turning 74 in Humboldt today. Carolyn, a very happy birthday to you.
And Georgetta Susser celebrating birthday number 75 this year. Georgetta is in Chanute.
We've also got June Dunham turning 80 years young over in Parsons. June, an absolutely adorable little pup there with you. Very happy birthday to you.
All right. And David Eddington celebrating another year wiser. David is in Columbus.
And we've got Amy O'Brien celebrating a birthday today over in Frontenac. Happy birthday, Amy.
Great picture there of you, Amy. And our birthday list goes on. We've got Howard Bailey turning the big 90 this year. Howard is in Chanute. And John Kemp is celebrating a birthday in Pittsburgh.
And we've also got a couple of anniversaries to celebrate. Jason and Amanda Beard celebrating their 21st anniversary in Columbus. Happy anniversary to you. We also have Daryl and Shirley Thompson celebrating their 49th wedding anniversary in Crestline. Happy anniversary and happy birthday to all of you today.
Happy anniversary, especially to the Thompsons there, Daryl and Shirley. They were my parents away from home when I first moved here. All right, and you can send your birthdays or anniversaries to us, quite simply, through our email at birthdays@koamtv.com or birthdays@koamnewsnow.com.
And while you're at our website, why don't you take Why don't you take time to sign up for the KOAM Birthday Club? You get excellent deals from local sponsors. All you have to do is go to koamnewsnow.com and sign up for the KOAM News Now Birthday Club. All right, kids getting on the bus today. Be partly cloudy at 7 a.m., 60 degrees. The clouds will increase throughout the day, 85 and mostly cloudy by 3 o'clock. Going through today, got an afternoon high of 89 degrees under mostly cloudy skies. Clouds clear out very late this evening, giving us an overnight low of 62. And heading into the weekend, we got 92 tomorrow, 94 Saturday, 98 on Sunday, with overnight lows peaking up into the lower to mid 70s. We're back right after this.
Here's a check of today's top headlines, the news you need to know before you head out the door. Authorities in Oklahoma determine a car crash killed 2 people found dead Tuesday night in Delaware County. Authorities also identified the victims as 22-year-old Shelby Blackfox of Oklahoma and 46-year-old Ronald Hogsshooter of Frederick, Oklahoma. Officers believe they were ejected from a single vehicle crash, though it's still unclear what led to the crash. Telemedicine unit with medical grade equipment will allow McDonald County High School students to be seen from the school nurse's office. A provider from Neosho's hospital will be able to do a complete assessment of the student. Parents can also join in on the visit from their phones by opening a link that is sent to them. Chinese President Xi Jinping arrives in Uzbekistan on Wednesday night, where he was welcomed by the Uzbek president. According to Chinese state media, Xi's in the country as part of a state visit that will also see him attending a leaders meeting of the Shanghai Cooperation Organization. And Canada is giving the public a way to honor Queen Elizabeth II. The Department of Canadian Heritage says people can sign an official book of condolences. Physical copies are available in legislative buildings across the country. Messages cannot be longer than 500 words or be offensive or inappropriate. The longest reigning British monarch made 22 official visits to Canada as part of the Commonwealth. That's a check of today's top headlines, the news you need to know before you head out the door.
All right, quick check of the forecast as you head out the door. Mostly cloudy skies today, afternoon high of 89. We go through tonight. Clouds will clear out late tonight. We'll be left with an overnight low of 62. And then take a look at this 7-day forecast. It is less than pleasant. 92 tomorrow. We start warming into the upper 90s to start next week, and overnight lows back down into the lower to mid 70s, and it just stays hot and dry.
All right, well, coming up today at noon, we're making quick chicken curry in the Mr. Food Test Kitchen.
And your morning news continues on KOAM with CBS Mornings. NBA All-Star Kevin Love has been a mental health advocate for years. Coming up on CBS Mornings, he's going to talk about his new program to help kids.
Or you can switch on over with us on Fox 14, where your only local morning news continues. This morning, Chef Anthony steps back into Studio K to finish making that delicious apple pie poutine recipe.
He has also informed me that today is National Nougat Day, the stuff that goes in candy.
Huh.
Plus, Doug Hetty and Dow Quick stepping back into the studio to encourage you to come out and support the Christian Hetty Foundation's 88 Strong Passing It On event.
All right.
That's going to do it for us for now. We'll see you back here tomorrow morning at 5 a.m.
And we're going to do it all again today at noon.